If you enjoy this podcast summary and want to support Helping Journey, please consider subscribing. Here is a rundown on why smart people make stupid money decisions, featuring Dave Ramsey by Chris Williamson.ol. Dave Ramsey is a well-known personality in the personal finance space, and he's been helping people get out of debt for decades. He's the CEO of Ramsey Solutions, which produces a range of content, including podcasts, curriculum, and best-selling books. Ramsey's approach is centered around being passionate, enthusiastic, and helpful, rather than ruthless or cutthroat. He believes that the more people he helps, the more successful he'll be, and that a rising tide raises all ships. Ramsey's journey to success wasn't always easy. He shifted out doing talk radio and coaching people, and he had to learn a lot along the way. He didn't have any idea how much work it would take to build his business, but he was driven by a passion to help people. He's proud of what he's accomplished, but he's also humble and recognizes that he couldn't have done it without the help of others. When it comes to formal education, Ramsey believes that it's still valuable, but that people need to be smart about how they approach it. He thinks that students should focus on studying something useful, like accounting or law, and that they should try to get a good deal on their education. What matters is the individual's hustle, perseverance, and grit. Ramsey is a big advocate of starting and running your own business, but he also recognizes that it's not for everyone. He thinks that people should be entrepreneurial, whether they're working for themselves or for someone else. He loves the fact that the digital tools available today make it easier for people to start their own businesses and side hustles. When it comes to Gen Z and Millennials, Ramsey thinks that they face a unique financial landscape. He believes that they're more serious-minded and focused than previous generations, and that they're going to have unbelievable wealth as a result. He also thinks that they're very easy to teach because they're not distracted by everything shiny. However, he also recognizes that there are two types of Zs, those who are serious and focused, and those who are not. He believes in the importance of education, but also recognizes that it's not the only path to success. He's a big advocate of entrepreneurship, but also thinks that people should be smart about how they approach it. And he's optimistic about the financial future of Gen Z and Millennials, as long as they stay focused and serious-minded. He enjoys working with them and appreciates their willingness to question everything. In fact, he finds it fun to argue with them because it makes for good radio. However, when it comes to designing a successful human being, Ramsey has some specific traits in mind. First and foremost, he believes that serving others is key. He emphasizes the importance of being other-centered rather than self-centered, as it leads to greater joy and attractiveness in the market. He shares a personal anecdote about how he used to be arrogant and focused on acquiring wealth, but after losing everything, he realized that serving others brought him more joy than any material possession. Ramsey also stresses the importance of work ethic, grit, and perseverance. He believes that people should be willing to put in the effort required to achieve their goals, rather than expecting things to come easily. He shares a humorous anecdote about how he tells people who complain about being burnt out that they were never actually on fire in the first place. In terms of implementing these traits, Ramsey suggests that people should focus on serving others and being other-centered. He uses the example of a fine dining experience, where the server's goal is to take care of the customers, not to talk about themselves. He also emphasizes the importance of setting long-term goals and breaking them down into daily activities that can help achieve them. When it comes to overcoming adversity, Ramsey is candid about his own experiences. He recalls a time when he was struggling financially and felt like a complete failure. However, he also remembers moments of hope and inspiration, such as when he read a Bible verse that encouraged him to rejoice in his tribulations. He acknowledges that it's not always easy to see the bigger picture when you're in the midst of struggle, but he encourages people to take things one step at a time and focus on the next right thing to do. Ramsey also talks about the importance of reframing one's perspective during difficult times. He notes that people often have a skewed view of how others overcome adversity, thanks to movies and media that portray it as a quick and easy process. In reality, he says, it can take years to recover from a setback, and it's normal to feel uncertain and self-doubting. However, he encourages people to keep moving forward, even if it's just taking the next step, and to focus on the present moment rather than getting bogged down in negative thoughts. Ultimately, Ramsey's message is one of hope and resilience. He encourages people to keep going even when things seem tough, and to focus on serving others and taking things one step at a time. By doing so, He believes that people can overcome even the most daunting challenges and achieve their goals.
Chris Williamson agrees, recalling a time when he was trying to figure out what made him feel better and worse. He realized that action is the antidote to anxiety, and that when you're moving towards your goals, you don't fear the future as much.
Dave Ramsey shares his momentum theorem, which states that focused intensity over time, multiplied by God, equals unstoppable momentum. He explains that when you have negative momentum, you're better than you look, and when you have positive momentum, you're not as good as you look.
Chris Williamson notes that this theorem is relevant to people who are trying to build wealth and businesses. The conversation turns to the topic of psychological errors that people make when thinking about wealth and business building.
Dave Ramsey mentions that one of the biggest errors is the idea that wealth is bad, or that successful people are somehow morally reprehensible. He argues that this idea is perpetuated by the anti-success movement, and that it's having a negative impact on people's psyches.
Chris Williamson asks Dave Ramsey about the origins of this anti-wealth movement, and Dave Ramsey blames communist college professors. Chris Williamson notes that this movement is not just limited to the US, but is also present in other countries, such as the UK and Australia.
Dave Ramsey shares a story about how he was affected by the anti-wealth movement, and how he had to overcome his own feelings of victimhood. He emphasizes the importance of taking control of one's life, and not blaming external circumstances for one's failures. The conversation then turns to the topic of building a business that one loves. Dave Ramsey explains that he and his team have developed a framework for small businesses, which they call the Entrez Leadership System. This system is based on 5 stages of business growth, and it provides a clear path for entrepreneurs to follow. Dave Ramsey explains that the first stage of business growth is the treadmill operator stage, where the entrepreneur is the sole producer of revenue and product. He notes that this stage can be exciting, but it's also exhausting, and that entrepreneurs need to be aware of the risks of burnout. It also highlights the need to be aware of the psychological errors that can hold people back from achieving their goals. After going broke, he worked tirelessly to get his business off the ground, often putting in 16-hour days. His wife, who was essentially a single mom at the time, would ask him what he did all day, and he'd have no idea, only knowing that he was exhausted. However, he was determined to achieve financial peace, and he eventually did. Ramsey's business went through various stages, which he calls the 5 stages of business growth. The first stage is the startup stage, where the entrepreneur is working hard to get the business off the ground. The second stage is the pathfinder stage, where the business is growing, but it's still chaotic and disorganized. The third stage is the trailblazer stage, where the business is starting to take off, but it's still lacking in systems and processes. The fourth stage is the peak performer stage, where the business is successful, but it's also at risk of becoming complacent. The final stage is the legacy stage, where the business is established and the entrepreneur is thinking about succession planning. Ramsey emphasizes the importance of time management, delegation, and governance in each of these stages. He also stresses the need for a clear mission and vision, as well as a strong culture and values. He believes that hiring the right people is crucial, and that it's not just about finding talented individuals, but also about finding people who share the company's values and are passionate about its mission. When it comes to hiring and motivating staff, Ramsey says that he looks for people who are on fire for what the company is doing and who align with its core values. He believes that it's more important to find people who are enthusiastic and motivated than it is to find people with talent. He also emphasizes the importance of creating a positive culture and work environment where people feel valued and supported. Ramsey notes that money problems are often symptomatic of deeper issues, such as greed, immaturity, or addiction. He believes that financial problems are often a reflection of personal problems, and that addressing the underlying issues is key to achieving financial peace. He also emphasizes the importance of personal growth and development, and believes that finances are just one aspect of a person's overall well-being. When it comes to changing financial behavior, Ramsey says that it's all about belief. He believes that people need to believe that they can achieve financial peace, and that they need to have hope that things can get better. He also emphasizes the importance of taking action, and says that people need to start making changes in order to see results. He believes that by focusing on the right values and principles, entrepreneurs can build successful businesses that make a difference in the world. He believes that people need a win, and that's why he advocates for paying off the smallest debt first, rather than the one with the highest interest rate. This approach is called the debt snowball, and it's not just about the numbers, but about the psychological boost that comes with achieving a quick win.
Chris Williamson points out that this approach is psychologically superior, and Dave Ramsey agrees. He says that people are more likely to stick with a plan that gives them a sense of accomplishment and motivation, rather than one that's based solely on math.
In fact, Dave Ramsey believes that the debt snowball is mathematically superior when you factor in the probability of completion. Dave Ramsey believes that it's often because they believe that wealth is morally reprehensible and that they're not worthy of it.
Chris Williamson brings up the topic of social media and how it distorts our understanding of wealth and success.
Dave Ramsey agrees that social media can be a problem, as it presents a curated version of people's lives that's not always realistic. He says that people need to be aware of the fact that social media is not real and that it's not a reflection of their own lives. The conversation then turns to the topic of the cost of living crisis and whether the average American is earning enough. Dave Ramsey believes that it's not just about the cost of living, but about the fact that people's incomes are not keeping up with their expenses. However, he also believes that people have the power to change their financial situation by making smart decisions and taking control of their finances.
Chris Williamson mentions a British economist named Gary Stevenson, who is advocating for high taxes on high net worth individuals.
Dave Ramsey is skeptical of this approach and believes that it's a form of socialism that doesn't work. He says that the American system of capitalism has given people the freedom to build wealth and succeed, and that it's not about taking from one person and giving to another. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, check out YouTube channel, and just remember, subscription is only £1 or $1 per month. Leave a comment or review. Until next time, happy listening.